Hello everybody. A few episodes ago we looked at works by early European settler Thomas Corbett de Lacy of Ravensbourne. Today I thought we might look at another Ravensbourne identity, Bob Hawkridge. Hawkridge was originally from West Yorkshire, where he had trained and worked as a commercial artist. He supposedly came to Dunedin following his sweetheart, Jeanette Haig, who had emigrated here with her aunt and uncle at the end of 1888, and who Hawkridge would marry in 1889. Hawkridge initially began working here as a lithographer for the New Zealand Tablet Printing Company, but in October 1889 he landed a new job as an illustrator at J. Wilkie & Co., a company he would spend the next 2 decades working for before replacing David Con Hutton as the principal of the Dunedin School of Art in 1909. Hawkridge also joined and began exhibiting with the Otago Art Society soon after settling here. At the Society's annual exhibition in November 1891, he showed some illustrations he had made for a forthcoming book. His illustrations were said to represent a branch of art that hadn't been shown by the Art Society before, but it was something they were keen to support. The book was titled The West Coast Sounds of New Zealand, and it was produced for the Union Steamship Company. The illustrations included views of Preservation Inlet, Dusky, George and Milford Sounds, and other beauty spots visited by the Union Company vessels on their scenic excursions. In 1900, furniture makers and retailers Skoolar and Chisholm called upon J. Wilkie & Co. to publish a catalogue of their furniture, which was likewise garnished with drawings by Hawkridge. Hawkridge's talents were also in demand for illustrating works of fiction. These ones supported a prize-winning story published in the New Zealand Graphics Christmas edition in 1893. Hawkridge featured again in the following year's Christmas edition of the New Zealand Graphic, with this view of Dunedin. And here's his original painting of the scene, which is still owned in Dunedin today. And here are some other Christmas annuals for which he provided the cover art. Producing illuminated addresses and presentation albums was another aspect of Hawkridge's craft for which he became well known. This one was presented to Captain Alfred William Robin, commander of the Otago Hussars and captain of the New Zealand contingent of mounted rifles, upon his return from celebrations in England to mark 60 years of Queen Victoria's reign in 1897. And here's a later example presented to Ravensbourne identity Hagbarth Moller in 1913 upon his retirement from various sporting and social organisations in West Harbour. The 50th Jubilee of European settlement in Otago in 1898 kept Hawkridge busy. He produced this cover image for this Otago Daily Times and Witness Jubilee souvenir. He also submitted 3 works into the Jubilee exhibition. But his biggest job for the Jubilee was to create this bird's eye view print of Dunedin in 1898 for a local news agent to publish and sell as a souvenir. Hawkridge was a prominent Freemason, and here both his artistic and musical talents were put to good use. He is remembered as an organist, but also for designing new pillars for 2 lodge rooms, and the membership certificate for the Grand Lodge of New Zealand. The certificate also features the Hawkridge pillars. In 1900, Pollard's Opera Company came to town to stage a performance of The Belle of New York. While a poster to advertise the event was entrusted to Peter McIntyre at the Caxton Printing Company, Hawkridge produced the programme for a special benefit matinee. Proceeds from the matinee with the benefit of the Otago and Southland contingent fighting in the war in South Africa. After the war, this illustrated roll of honour was designed and drawn by Hawkridge to coincide with the unveiling in 1906 of Dunedin's South African War Memorial. Copies of the print were given to public schools in Otago. The original artwork was then donated to the museum by the Otago Fallen Soldiers Memorial Committee. 71 New Zealand troopers were killed in action or died of wounds received in battle during the South African War. Sergeant Gourlay of Dunedin was the first Otago man to be killed, one of 2 New Zealanders lost in the assault here at what became known as New Zealand Hill. Captain John Allen Harvey of Balclutha was another who did not return from the war. More of the same was asked of Hawkridge during and in the wake of the Great War. In 1915, he produced a painting of fighting at Gallipoli. As part of the peace celebrations in 1919, he and his former employer J. Wilkie & Co. produced an illustrated souvenir of the war, which was presented to Dunedin schoolchildren. He also won first prize in a government competition to design a war service certificate. However, news of his success coincided with news of his death on the 7th of January 1920, aged 54 years. That brings us to the end of another episode. See you next time, and thanks for watching.